Okay, as I said earlier, thank you everyone for coming. And I'm going to stop sharing. And this is, the topic this evening is how financially healthy is your business? And I'd like to thank our panelists this evening. We have Miss Veronica Airey-Wilson, who's the owner of Airey Insurance Company. We have Sharon Dixon Pay, who's one of the owners of Dixon and Company Affiliated, which does taxes and accounting. We hope to have on Mr. Harold Harper, who's an Assistant Vice President at Windsor Federal Savings. And we have Kester Hector, who's in the certified financial business, and also Mr. Anthony Smith, who's also in the certified financial services. So thank you to our panelists, and I am going to moderate. And as I said, please put questions in the chat and we will try to address them as we go along. I'm going to start with Ms. Veronica Airey-Wilson. And the topic is keeping your business financially healthy. From an insurance perspective, what do you recommend that small business owners or small nonprofits, what type of insurance do you recommend that they have to protect their business, and why?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm going to make it very simple. Clearly, insurance is a needed commodity in this world. And it's no different for small businesses, maybe even more so, because many small businesses are running on a shoestring budget. And so if anything were to happen, accidents or something beyond their control, they would want to have backup, and insurance would serve as that purpose. And so I highly recommend that every business have some level of insurance. There's such a variety out there, and some might need more than others. But basic insurance, even if you're operating out of your home, many companies offer business insurance, and it's quite reasonable for those people who are operating their business out of their home. So you would start with a basic insurance, which would be considered general liability. And this is an insurance that you want to make sure that if anything was to happen, that you're responsible for, and you were being sued, that you would have enough coverage that in the event there was a judgment entered against you, that you'd have enough funds through an insurance policy to pay for that. And you wouldn't have to sell your business, you wouldn't have to close up in order to cover that. And that general liability can cover anyone who is making cobblers at home, roses, or arts and crafts, to someone who is out in the general public with a restaurant or an insurance agency, a real estate agency, just lawyers, doctors, all those folks would definitely want to have a liability policy. I always recommend a package policy, and that policy would not only include liability, but it would include business contents coverage. So that means all the furnishing within that business, whether it's one room in your home or it's a 2,000 square foot operation, or a 10,000 square foot operation. There's coverages for small as well as large. And what companies like Allstate have done is that we've combined the liability and the contents within a policy. We've added some other features, and we call that a business operation policy. And that's most of the time what I would recommend. So that means all the computers in your business, all the products that you're selling, or the equipment, or the items themselves would be covered, and you would let us know what that value is, and we would base the coverage on that value. So you have people with as small as the $5,000 contents coverage and $1 million liability coverage, because you always want to have a lot more liability, because in this sue happy society that we're in, and somehow when people see you with the business, they somehow think you're rich. And even small business people are often sued for little things that could happen when someone comes to their business or preparing a product that might hurt someone in some way. And so it's so important that folks have that coverage so that they don't lose their business or have to go out of business because they can't meet the need of a judgment that's been entered against them. Now, when we talk about this package policy, I mentioned that it would have the liability portion. It would also cover the contents in your store or in your office. But there's also a lot of added features to having that policy. For instance, the other day, many of the businesses along New Britain Avenue were closed up for a week. There was a storm, we lost power, and for 1 week, we couldn't get the light company to supply us any electricity. So all those businesses were closed up. Well, within this package policy, there would be coverage that any loss of income that you may have during that period of time, you could come back and claim it under your insurance policy for things like when there's a fire, when there's a storm, and it causes damage to your property, and consequently you can't open. Having loss of income as part of this package policy is very valuable, because you still have employees that they need to still get paid even when they're out. So you have to have some source of income other than what you depend on from the public to keep these expenses going. Because interestingly enough, in most businesses, when things go wrong, you still have expenses that still have to be covered. And an insurance policy can make that happen. So some insurance policy can be very detailed and cover almost anything that you can think of, even flood and earthquake. When you have your homeowner's policy, a basic homeowners may not cover flood, may not cover earthquake. And in the business package policy, just like you can buy it onto your policy when you have a home, you can do the same thing with your business, with business policy. So there's other things. People have big picture windows, and if those windows get broken, they're very expensive to repair, and those could be thousands of dollars, $3,000, $4,000. So you want to make sure that you tailor the policy to your needs. So if you don't have big picture windows, then you won't need to buy that particular coverage on your policy. But some people have them and never think to mention that, you know, I have 8 panes of windows that are 6 feet tall, and you know, one of those get broken, or all of them, and it gets very expensive to repair. A lot of landlords now are making sure that individuals carry an insurance policy, because they don't want to be stuck with having to pay to fix that window. So you'll have many landlords who say, you don't open that door until I have that policy. So those are areas that people really want to consider when they're going into business, is not only opening the door, but one of the first things they should think about before they open that door is to have an insurance policy. Your financial backers are going to want to make sure you have that. Included in many of these business, and tell me if I'm going on too long, because I can come back with questions later. Yeah. Included in these business package policies are also coverages for your employees. not only with them coming to work and maybe able to get hurt on the job, but there's things like discrimination and workers' compensation. These are all coverages that some are required by law and some are just important to have. And people pick and choose. Some things are mandatory. Workers' comp now, even when you have one employee, that's a mandatory policy that you have. And you want to have that because, again, if something happened to your employee on the job and it's going to be long-term, you want to be able to hire another employee and still pay that one that's going to be out. And the workers' compensation policy can do that.
Thank you, Veronica.
One other area that I'd like to point out, because I run into this difficulty all the time, and it's not one that clients really buy that often, but they should be buying. The big boys do, but small businesses tend to shy away from it. And that's a policy, it's a form of, you would cover it with a life insurance policy. For people who are in partnerships, you want to make sure that in the event anything happens to either your partner or a key person in that business. Some businesses have a chef and they have a key person in the business. An example would be like a restaurant where you have a chef and the whole operation of that kitchen and the quality of the food is dependent on that special type of chef. Maybe you imported them in from Italy or Jamaica or someplace like that. You want to have a key man insurance or a business partner insurance. The key man insurance would say, this man is our person, is vital to my business, and in the event I was to lose this person, it could be catastrophic for my business, and therefore you would insure that person. And in the event that something happened, whether it's $300,000, $500,000, or $1 million, that money would be there to go out and recruit someone else of the same caliber. Now, the partnership insurance, maybe even more important than the key man, is that when you have a partner and say you're 50-50 in the partnership or even 20-80, and that partner dies, that equity that the partner have, you got to somehow figure out how you're going to finance that to give to the widower or to give to the beneficiary. And many times businesses either have to sell to be able to do that, or there's a big drawn out fight in court and eventually the business go under. So you want to consider when you're in a partnership is to take out that type of insurance that insures against the death of that person. And in the event that happens, the money belongs to the business, but the business can then use that money to pay off a widower or to pay off kids or whoever the beneficiaries are. Because one thing, you might be a great partner with someone else, but try running a business with that person's wife or that person's husband who have no idea what that business is like. And every day you're going to be bucking heads. That's not going to be a good working environment. So that's another form of insurance that I would highly recommend for those people who are in partnerships.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot of information you just gave us, and maybe later on, if I get a chance, I'll be able to summarize it.
Okay.
For that. Ms. Dixon-Pay, the question that we have for you is, how should a small business, a business prepare itself, especially during these times of COVID, as the government at times is giving out grants or small business loans? Can you talk to us about what their requirements are, or what type of things should a business always have ready so they can respond to something like that?
All right, I'll do that. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this seminar. It's actually a pretty timely seminar because of some of the things that are going on in Connecticut right now. I believe everyone's gotten something called breaking news about the DECD Connecticut Cares Small Business Grant Program. It was announced on October 21st, and apparently the application process is going to begin the week of November 9th. So finding out about this grant program and finding out how to prepare yourself now is an excellent, excellent way to at least give yourself a chance to getting the money. So what is this program? This program provides a total of $50 million. It provides $25 million to businesses within the 25 distressed municipalities as identified by the state of Connecticut. Of course, Hartford is one of those designated distressed municipalities. The other 25 million goes to businesses in the other 144 towns. So you can imagine that there is going to be a lot of competition for both of these grant programs. Let's go over just quickly the eligibility requirements. First of all, there's some things that that make businesses ineligible. So if you're involved with anything that has to do with vaping and any kind of adult entertainment or anything of that nature, and you can go and check on business.ct.gov and find out the full list of businesses that are ineligible. If you're involved in those, forget it. You're not eligible for this. The other thing to remember is that all businesses and nonprofits, including, much to my surprise, sole proprietors and home businesses are eligible for this program. There are a couple of key things to keep in mind, though. You must demonstrate that you have had at least a 20% loss when you compare the first 3 quarters of 2019 to the first 3 quarters of 2020. So the way I'm interpreting it now, and I will warn you that things change, and keeping track of that website, I'll repeat it again because it's pretty important. It's business.ct.gov. It's a little difficult to find the information in there, but I found it way at the bottom of the website page. Anyway, what's going on is that there's a revenue requirement. There is a requirement that you have been in business since October 2019, and you are continuing to be in business. So you can't be someone who has decided to close the doors as of September 1st and then and filed all the paperwork to get rid of your company and get rid of your business, and then all of a sudden attempt to resurrect yourself in time for the 9/30 deadline. They are watching that. That also means that you have to be current with all of your filings with the state of Connecticut. So they've changed their website for filing and making sure that you can make payments, and you have to follow by going to the Department of Revenue Services website. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with this if you've applied for just about anything. And you really have to go first to their original website. That's the Taxpayer Services Center website, and then create an account in something called My Connect. If you do that, you will be able to determine what your status is, and you have a little time to do that. So here's some other requirements. You cannot have more than 20 employees in 2019, or you cannot have paid anybody, those 20 people, more than $1.5 million in 2019. So they're literally going back to 2019 and making a judgment of whether or not you have been impacted by COVID. Okay. So the last thing is you have to demonstrate a need. And the need is very well laid out, once again, by going to that website. And it's for things like payroll, inventory, equipment, things of that nature. But the caveat is this need is COVID related, and you must demonstrate that you don't have any other sources to get that money for, get the money for what you need. So it is $5,000. It is a grant. You will not have to pay it back. It's something that you have to get yourself prepared for. Now, most of us have some sort of system in place already because we've been in the process of applying for different programs that have been coming up during the COVID season. So you're kind of partway there if you've been applying for things like the PPP loans, or if you've been loans or forgiveness loans, or if you've been applying for the SBC loan program, that EIDL, which provided a significant amount of money to most people, and it has a forgiveness period, for example. So if you've done that, and while you're in that process of figuring out your applications, you probably had to create for yourself some sort of system to recognize income and expenses. And quite frankly, that's the basic business principle. You really need to know where your money is, or how you got your money, and how you spend it. It really is just that basic. Now, I'm sure those that are not familiar with computer-based accounting systems have been in business, and if you've been in a business for a long time, you've had some sort of system to help you. Well, with this grant program, you really are going to need to step up a little bit if you have not put in place a good income and expense system to tell you on a everyday basis if you want, but at least on a monthly basis, what your income and expenses are. This program that's asking you for information back to 2019, it would be very straightforward if in fact you have one of those systems in place. And when I'm talking about systems, I'm talking about everything from maybe a Quicken, or maybe some people have Mint, some people have several kinds of systems that they put in place, including my favorite, QuickBooks. And QuickBooks has a number of different features for you if you would like to set up a computerized system. The last thing I wanted to let you know is that if you have a feeling that maybe you're just going month to month with your income and expenses, and you're kind of not quite sure where things are and what you have, you really need to think about talking to somebody. And talking to somebody, maybe accountant, maybe a bookkeeper like we are at Dixon & Company, maybe your tax preparer like we are at Dixon & Company, someone to help you move forward, to have a system that really helps you. Because quite frankly, at least my customers have found that with an automatic computerized system, they can look at what they have on a very quick basis, and they can understand those numbers. They can really make some decisions by having this kind of a system in place. And really that's the kind of the road to sustainability, the road to profit, and you know, the way that you can ensure that your business is sustainable even through these kinds of rough times. And so in closing, I just want to tell you a little bit about Dixon & Company. We're a firm that's been in Windsor for 20 years. I personally have been doing taxes since, well before the 20 years. And we do all kinds of taxes for several businesses and for nonprofits. And so I certainly would be happy to talk with you if you'd like to get your books in order, or at least get a chance to apply for this grant and have us look at whether or not you actually will be eligible. And so my last point is that there's a lot of people on this call that have significant expertise in every area of your business. You're going to hear from some more. You already heard from Veronica. And, you know, the things that we're telling you about are things that are not guesses. It's not something that we kind of thought about yesterday and decided to put in this presentation today. We've been working with this for a while, and we're ready and able to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon. Appreciate that. So basically that takeaway was you need an automatic system for reporting quickly when needed. Okay, I do not think Mr. Harper is on the line. So I am going to go to Mr. Kester, Hector, and Anthony Smith. I think they are together. They work together. And maybe you guys can tell us a little bit about financial services. What, from a business perspective, do you offer that you think a small business owner needs to be aware of?
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Smith. I am with Certified Financial Services out of Farmington, Connecticut. You know, been a resident of this community, you know, 3 generations now. So very familiar with the community around here, and, you know, very happy to join you guys today and talking about, you know, our community small businesses. In my time doing financial services, one of the big keys is getting the right people around you to really help you with, you know, your plans and the most efficient ways and the constructive ideas to get to your financial goals. So ultimately, as financial advisors, we really help people make, you know, better financial decisions with respect to, you know, building and preserving wealth. And that's really where I brought my partner Kester in. Kester's really specialized in that small business space for 20 years, really to construct and build dynamic financial plans and investment strategies for different small businesses. You know, working a lot in the West Indian community, actually from Grenada, and has really been a integral piece in helping me work with small business owners. So, Kester, I'll give it to you a little bit to kind of describe some of the things we can bring to the table.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I would like to thank everyone for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. As Anthony mentioned, I've been in the financial services industry for over 25 years, straight out of college. That's all I've ever done. I started working with small business owners, I would say, in the past 15 years. I work with a lot of dentists. I speak to a lot of the dentists when they first start their business, and I meet them while they're in dental school, and we work with them from then until they obtain their practices and start developing their own practice and developing their business. One of the first things that I tell my young dentist owners or my business owners is this: in order to build a business, we have to start with the simplest thing. And every time I tell people this, you know, they laugh in the beginning because they think it's such a simple thing. But the most important thing to your business is you need to get a budget together. You need to decide how much money you have coming in versus how much money you have going out and what you are doing with those funds. You need to decide, hey, am I taking a salary for myself every single month? And I know when you first start, because I see it with my small business owners, it is very difficult to take a salary because a lot of that money that you're bringing in, you're building your business. So you're sacrificing yourself for that particular business so you can generate, you can build that business. But as time goes on, you need to kind of transition from that into really developing your business so that your business runs itself. And that what I mean by that is the income that the business generates should not only pay your employees, but it should also pay you. And you have to separate that. And if you don't separate it, a lot of times you find yourself just spinning your wheels, wondering, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? So it's vitally important as you develop your business, you get a budget together, you decide, you have to financially organize. That is very important. As Sharon said previously, what the important thing is, you need to know what it is you're doing in terms of your income, your expenses, just in case something like COVID were to happen and you're not able now, it's easy for you now to present those paperwork that you need to get all that information to whomever it is handing out those monies. That is so vitally important. That's why it's so good to have good financial organization in your business. If for any reason something were to occur and the insurance companies needed to see your books, it is vitally important that you have those books ready so that it's easy for them to know exactly what it is that they're doing, what you're doing every month. So that's important. One of the other things, as you start developing your business, you wanna stop accumulating debt, because as you keep accumulating debt, you're not seeing that money that you're generating because so much debt is being accumulated in the business. You want to start paying off those debt as the business becomes more and more viable. You want to start paying off those debt rather than keeping those debt on the books. Then you're not really seeing that money that you're generating. So as time goes on, you want to eliminate those debt little piece at a time. You want to bring them down, bring them down. The other piece you want to take a look at is, as Veronica mentioned, you want to have, that's one of the most vital piece in your financial planning, is you want to start your retirement accounts as soon as possible. Start your retirement accounts. Look into your 401ks. Look into, you can do individual 401k if you do not have employees. You can look into simplified employee pension plan. If you're a single business owner, there are different things that you can do to put monies away for a rainy day. You can do individual investments where you can do brokerage accounts, and you could put money into those accounts so you can invest in the market and start seeing good returns on those investments. You can do annuity contracts where you could put money away tax deferred for the next how many years. And then when you are ready to retire and pull those money out, granted, you will have to pay taxes on those income, but you would have accumulated those monies tax deferred. And you can deduct that as well, as Sharon will help you do, from your taxes as you are accumulating those assets. So the more assets you can accumulate while you're working, the easier it will be when you retire to start pulling those monies down so you can generate an income. I know a lot of people will tell me, it's my own business, I can never retire from it. It's sink or swim here. But if you put yourself in a position where you are, while your business is generating income, you put in monies away, it will be a lot easier for you to retire when that time comes. And back to what Veronica said, the other piece that's vitally important is protection. You need to protect yourself against any calamity that can occur. You need to protect yourself against any natural disaster. You need to protect yourself against accidents. You need to protect yourself against long-term illness. You need to protect yourself, loss of life, anything that can derail your business. If you got sick or ill and you couldn't open the doors, what happened? What is your plan? Who will open that door for you so that your business will continue running? Where will you get the income from so you can keep sustaining your livelihood? That's vitally important. And those are some of the plans that you need to put in place just in case some of those things were to occur. You want to make sure you put in monies away while you're generating money just in case something were to happen. You want to make sure you have the right insurance in place just in case something were to happen. If you're younger and you're just starting out and you want to make sure you have the right disability insurance in case something were to happen to you. You want to make sure you have the right life insurance in case something were to happen. If something were to happen to you or your spouse or your children, you want to make sure you're adequately protected so they can continue and live their life. Because if you are the main breadwinner and that business is the only thing generating income for you, you want to make sure that you have a nice life insurance policy so in case something were to occur, you know that that business will continue and that business will flourish, because guess what? They received the money that was needed and they can use that money now to invest back in the business and have the business continue going. Or they can sell the business, but they don't have to worry about when they have to sell it, because you were able to provide a nice insurance policy. So in that way, they don't have to rush and do anything. They can take their time and do whatever is necessary to get to get the business where it needs to go. So those are some of the things that as business owners, you need to look at. The retirement planning is important. Your protection piece is important. Make sure you're avoiding, and I know sometimes it's hard to avoid debt, but you have to look at your debt and see how you can manage that debt. And don't let the debt manage you, because if you do, it's going to be hard to get out of it. So those are some of the things that you want to look at in terms of protection pieces, in terms of managing the debt process and getting your budget together. That's vitally important, especially for those of you who have been in business for a long time. You want to make sure that you know what's coming in versus what's going out, what you're going to invest, how much, what percentage of that money you're bringing in, you're looking to invest. And not only just put it in the bank, but invest it into some mutual funds, invest it into places where it can build and it can grow rather than just sitting there. So those are some of the things that you want to look at as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hector. I appreciate that. That was a lot of good information. I am going to go to the chat and ask some of the questions. First one, in response to the pandemic, public health protocols can require work from home. What coverage do you recommend for employers with remote workers? That's employers with remote workers. And then maybe someone can also talk about employees working from home due to the pandemic. Does anyone want to take that question? I think it came up when you were speaking, Veronica. I muted you. 1 second. Can you unmute?
You're still muted.
I got it. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, and the question had to do with what
Coverage.
insurance or
Well, what coverage do you
what coverage would
recommend
be
for employers with remote workers? You're an employer and you're having your workers work from home.
Right. I don't really think it's much different than when they're working in the office. I think that coverage, it's all new to the insurance industry that so many people would be working from home. But I think in terms of the coverages that would definitely still apply would be workers' comp. Because even working from home, people can still get carpal tunnel. There's things that still could affect them as job-related issues. Mental issues certainly would be something that would be definitely would be covered under workers' comp. So I think people want to make sure that they still have a workers' compensation policy in place, clearly continuing to have their liability insurance, because if I don't know how, what all the types of businesses, but if customers are going to be meeting clients at their home for business meetings, then they'd want to make sure that they have that coverage just in case someone got hurt. on the premises as a result of coming there for a business. So I would clearly recommend the BOP policy, which is the business owner's policy. And I'd also recommend that they have workers' compensation, continue to maintain their workers' compensation policy, because that too will provide some level of protection for things like mental illness. You know, just being locked away at home, it could drive some folks crazy, right? But things like carpal tunnel and other issues that may come up. So those are the two areas I would highly recommend at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hector, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think Veronica covered it all. There really isn't much because this is so new to us. So there really isn't much in terms of, I think it's just maintaining the coverages that you have in place right now. I think that's the most important thing that you can do. And I think that's the important piece.
Okay.
And clearly from an employee standpoint, am I there? From an employee standpoint, they want to make sure they maintain their health insurance. You know, don't let that lapse as a result. Sometimes it's a shared expense. The employer pay a certain portion and the employee pay the rest. That employee want to make sure they continue to pay, because that's a very difficult insurance to get back when you lose it. And you really can't even afford to be without it for a minute, much less, you know, a longer period of time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question is for Sharon. The grant that you were speaking of, do you have to have an employee or employees to apply?
My understanding is that you do not have to have them. Sole proprietors are eligible. Home-based businesses are also eligible. So that implies that you do not have to have employees. The issue for the state of Connecticut is that you have more than 20. What they're trying to do is attract small businesses.
Okay, thank you. Those were the only questions in the chat, so I'm going to open the floor up for anyone that may have a question for anyone on the panel, or if there is some information that they would like to share with the group. Any questions? Okay, someone put nonprofits are eligible also for the grants. Yes, that is true.
Violette?
Yes?
I have Veronica talk about umbrella insurance and how important it is for business. If she could talk about that.
Sure. You know, many times it's, I find that clients are even hesitant to want to buy the $1 million policy, which, you know, when they hear $1 million, they think, oh my God, it's so, it's going to be very expensive. And to be truthful, there's hardly, depending on the industry, but there's hardly any difference between $500,000 and $1 million. Sometimes it's a matter of $50. In some industry, because whatever the claims are, they've never really reached that. But I think in some industry, clearly, or those businesses with high assets, they definitely want to not only carry that $1 million, but also look to carry an umbrella policy, which many times will pick up on, would be able to help the client with claims above and beyond $1 million. People don't think about, many times in business, you have a delivery person who is on the road all the time, and how that person could create a crash and kill not one person, but, you know, several people, have an accident that would kill several people in a business, several people in a vehicle. So just imagine if that happened to your business, that lawsuit, $1 million is not going to be hardly enough. So having an umbrella policy that would kick in immediately after that $1 million is expended is so very important. It helps people to sleep at night, truthfully, I think, because there's so much that can happen out there in the blink of an eye that would put your business in jeopardy or put you at risk. That having that umbrella policy, people buy it all the time in their personal lives, but I don't see enough folks buying it in their on the business side, especially small business. And to be honest, it's really so important to have, because like I said, almost anything could happen that would cause you to expend $1 million that you may have on your regular BOP policy. But that umbrella policy would cover so much more, sometimes even the astronomical legal fees. In some peculiar cases, having that umbrella policy would bring in some added funds that you may have exhausted on your regular business policy. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. That was one area that I didn't mention, to consider umbrella policies for your business as much as you would be for your personal lives.
Okay, thank you. My next question is for Mr. Smith or Mr. Hector. And a question came in about building legacy for small business owners, how to build wealth for the next generation when you're thinking about day-to-day operating your business.
I think the easiest way to not only build wealth, but to pass on wealth is to buy life insurance. Because what it does is it now gives you the ability to pass down wealth to the next generation. And not only that, you can pass a large sum of money to the next generation that if you do it right, can be passed down without being taxable. So that's one of the best ways to pass down wealth, through family and to the business. It makes it a lot easier to do it that way, because people think, oh, you got to work. It's really interesting when you see people talk about having these trust accounts, and people say, well, that person had this money in trust. But what people fail to realize is those trust accounts are funded by life insurance. Those trust accounts are not funded by cash. The trust accounts are funded by life insurance in case somebody dies, that parent dies. They leave the money for the kids, and then they say to the children in the trust that money is to be paid out at a certain time based on the age of the child. And that's the easiest way for them to pass on that wealth, because now you leave that lump sum of money to your children and it passes to them, but you can dictate when you want that money to be given to the children. So that is very vital to families to understand that that's the best way to pass money down from one generation to another. And not only if we do it once, we have to keep doing it. It's not just doing it once and that's it. Then the future generation, because I think what happened to us is that we have never had it before where we pass money down. People always say, well, I don't want to leave money for my kids because nobody left money for me. And if we keep thinking like that, guess what? We all end up in that same cycle of just spinning the wheel, rather than just thinking and focusing on how can we make our future generations better. The whole point of us sending our kids to college is so that they'll have a better life than we did. So if we take that same mentality in terms of our business and say, hey, listen, if we get, and I'm not talking about $100,000 of the life insurance, and I think that's really a misconception in our community. People think that you have $100,000, $200,000 worth of life insurance is a lot. No, it's not. We need to look at millions. We need
And
to look at $3, $4, $5 million worth of coverage that we can pass on. And people think that it's so expensive. But when you look at it as to what it is that you are building, it is not as expensive as you think.
Kester, quickly, and I'm not sure if everybody on the call knows of some of the living benefits of life insurance. Like all life insurance isn't a die to win game. Could you expound a little bit on some life insurance with some living benefits?
Yeah, so you have different life insurances you can get. You have term life insurance, which will cover you for a certain period of time. You have 10, 15, 20, 30, they go up to 40 years now, where you can get these term life insurance. They'll cover you for those periods of time. They're very inexpensive. Especially if you're in good health and you don't smoke, they're very inexpensive. You have whole life insurance, which is, there are certain companies that sell whole life insurance. Usually they're mutual companies. And what it does, within the whole life, you have dividends that the companies give back to its policyholders, and those policies can generate cash value, and the huge amount of cash value that you can use. Because one of the things that I've seen, and that's a very great point, Anthony, is that during this COVID time, I have sent out millions of dollars in cash to business owners who have had policies with me, and now during COVID, they're able to go into their policies and borrow this money that they can now use to run their business. It was great help when the PPP came along, because now they got that money and they were able to now use that money to repay their life insurance where they took that money out. So it's their own little piggy bank that you build up. And if you need it, you can just go in, pull it out. You don't have to pay any taxes on that money once you pull it out. Only how you are able to pay taxes on that money is if, for any reason, you pull out more money than you put in, and you'll pay taxes on that difference, and which is gain. And if you were to surrender the contract, that's the only way you'll pay taxes on the gain on that money. Other than that, there's no taxes on that money. You borrow it, you put it back whenever you so choose. I mean, I have a funeral director. Whenever he's in a bind, he calls me up. He gets the money within 2 days. I send the money to him, he borrows it. Whenever he has it, he puts it back. It's his own little piggy bank, and it's all within his own personal life insurance. So if anything were to happen to him and he were to pass away, his family still gets that death benefit. If anything were to happen to him and he passed away and he didn't pay back the loan, the insurance company will deduct the loan from the death benefit, and he will get the difference. It's a great way for even families. I've had families who are looking to remodel their home, do their kitchen. They're able to pull $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 from that policy. They get 6.5% in terms of interest that they pay on that money. And the best part is they can pay that money back in their time, take their time, pay the loan back as they see fit. And on top of that, the policy generates dividends. You can use that dividend to also help you pay the loan back as well. So you can pay it off quicker rather than if you were at a bank and they're knocking on your door every month to make sure you have that money. So it's your piggy bank that you have that you can take your time and pay it back, because that money you accumulated over the years as you have had that policy and build it up.
Okay.
may I add also, that's definitely great information. We need to figure out how to convince more of our business owners and people within our community, and continue to educate them about the importance of life insurance. I see folks every day, and we need millions of dollars of policies, but for 10, 15, 20,000, folks are barking because they don't really want to leave any money. They think people are gonna kill them for it and that sort of thing. And it's such a small-minded way to think, but it continues to keep our community in poverty. I try to point out in many of the communities we live, and you look around, they're always pointing to the rich people in that community and the big names. And so often I have to keep reminding them, those people didn't start out rich. Someone had the foresight to think, while I'm working and well, I'm gonna buy $1 million policy. I'm gonna buy 5 million. And so when that person died, no, all the kids in college still got to go to college. Their home was paid off. They didn't have to change their lifestyle. And we just have to continue to push that message and maybe show more examples of people within our community who and families who have profited from life insurance, because maybe people will begin to understand it more and believe it more when they see people. I know that we tend to be very private a lot of times, but we do need to get that message out. Other things that the life insurance policy do, and folks utilize it, other folks in our communities to utilize, is to use life insurance to leave a legacy, a hospital wing to donate to their colleges. You know, many times when you hear these big numbers, oh, so-and-so gave $5 million to the United Negro Fund or to their college, it's life insurance that they've used to fund that. All they've done is taken out a $5 million policy, pay it on a monthly or a yearly basis, and when they die, that's what the college is going to get, or that wing of the hospital is going to get. That's many times funded by life insurance. And so I would hope that somehow we can continue to push that message to get our folks to really understand the importance of it, buying it while they're young. You know, I can sell $1 million for $30 a month in life insurance for someone who is in their 20s. And by the time they reach 40, they have high blood pressure, diabetes. They can't touch $1 million for less than maybe $120 a month. So we also have to start instilling these thoughts and ideas into our young people and into our businesses while, you know, the folks are of a certain age.
Thank you. One quick question that came up. 401ks we talked about earlier. During this pandemic, can people withdraw money from them without there being a penalty?
Yes, because of the pandemic, once you can prove that you've had a loss, a lot of companies are giving you the ability to pull out $100,000 from your 401k without having any penalties incur on that money. So that's one of the benefits that they're doing for 401k plans.
Okay, thank you. We have one last question, and that's from Mr. Rohn. John, can you unmute?
Yes, Violette, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so basically the question I have is that I heard that there are some people out there just willing to give away money in grants and so on. So aside from the state, what does a small business need to have in line with the basic structure in order to target some of these money, gain those money, and execute those monies? All right, whoever wants to take this can take it.
Sharon is muted.
Hi,
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, I had a little trouble understanding the question. I mean, not understanding it, hearing it, just hearing it.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so there are some people out there who are giving away money in grants aside from the state. So I'm wondering, what is the basic structure that a small business need to have in place in order to gain those money, you know, target whoever is giving those money away, and once they get the money, how to execute it and properly document so they can possibly get future money with ease.
Well, the basic answer to that is that you need to be able to demonstrate a need for many of those grants that are going on privately. Actually, that's the case for this state grant program that I was just talking about. And in order to get those monies, they usually ask for some sort of a cash flow that demonstrates that you have the need. Okay, so if you have your profit and loss statement and you have some sort of, the last grantee that I was working with needed to have a balance sheet, but and then you would have some sort of cash flow, and then you'd need to have some sort of written document that explained who you were, why you needed the money, and what you were going to do with the money in the future. That's usually the way the private grants go. In addition to that, once you've applied for one of those grants, they will ask you to sign some sort of agreement that says that you're going to spend the money like you told them you were going to spend it, and has some sort of reporting requirement. So that means that you probably need to have some sort of accounting system in place and have it so that it's done as you spend rather than trying to fill it in and create it later. So as you spend money and as you get these monies in, you can account for them kind of dollar for dollar for most of these private grants. So if they give you $10,000, $10,025, you need to account for $10,025. And usually they like you to account for a little bit more because it then ensures that you've spent their money on what they intended you to spend it on. The rules can vary, and you need to read the application for the grant very carefully, or quite frankly, you won't get it. And then once you get it, you just have to have the apparatus in place to be able to tell them. Usually it's no more than quarterly, but there may be some that have a more stringent requirement for reporting on how you spend.
John, does that answer your question?
He's muted.
Okay, I'm going to assume yes. The last question, there's a follow-up to the 401k question, and that is the early withdrawal from the 401k. It's taxable. Is it taxable?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the question. Yes, it is
You
taxable.
can never escape the IRS.
Never.
Never.
No matter what you do.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone who was.
Is it?
Go ahead, John.
But on the COVID side, isn't it true, Hester, that what that does is avoid the 10% penalty?
Yes, you avoid the penalty, but you still got to pay the taxes.
Right. Still have to pay taxes. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone. A couple takeaways from Miss Veronica. You need to have your general liability, and you can normally get the basic package, which includes some other things, the business contents. You need to have workers' comp and probably some insurance on your partner if you're in a partnership. From Miss Sharon, you need an automatic system for reporting and tracking you need to be able to do an income and expense report fairly quickly. So whatever is necessary for you to do your reporting quickly, you need to have that in place. And for Mr. Hester and Mr. Smith, you need to protect yourself. You need to have an individual retirement fund. You need to pay yourself. Those, I think, are the key takeaways that I got from this evening. So I do appreciate everyone being on the call. And Angela, could you please get on the phone for 1 minute? Angela is with Phillips Metropolitan Church, and they are having a food giveaway on Wednesday. Is it
Yes.
Wednesday? So could you just give the date and time? I wasn't able to pull the flyer up.
Okay, it is Wednesday. The food distribution starts at 10 a.m. Even though it's posted till 2, it's while supplies last. So when we run out, it's over. This is actually the last shipment in our area for the October distributions. And so some of the other trucks for the end of the week actually have been canceled. So it's a first come, first serve process. So don't wait till 2 o'clock to come because it'll probably be over by 12.
And the location?
But Phillips Metropolitan CME Church, 2500 Main Street
Okay,
in
thank you.
Hartford.
Thank you. So if you know of anyone who has, who may need some fresh food, please let them know of that there will be that distribution. And I think the city is also going to be opening up back their tenant, some of the tenant rights that they had in place earlier. So look forward, and we'll be sending some information out about that also, where tenants cannot get evicted, and there'll be some help for tenants also. So just wanted to let you know that those things are happening in the community. Appreciate everyone being here
Also,
today.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
just in addition, the food share, food distribution at Rentschler Field, after this week, starting in November, which is on Sunday, they will be transitioning to fewer days, just 2 days a week. And so it'll be Tuesday and Thursday. They'll be closed Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Okay.
so just a little community updates. So again, thank you, everyone. And if you want to be added to our distribution list in case you're not on it, if you just put your name and your email in the chat along with your name, I'll keep this open for a little bit for you to do that. But otherwise, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you being here, and have a good rest of the week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay.